Hi, this is Tom Rhodes. Please join me as I scour the four corners of the earth to bring you interesting and intelligent, funny people who will enrich your life with wisdom and laughter. I'll take you to Europe, Australia, all over America. I might take you to the peaks of Machu Picchu, the canals of Amsterdam, the Great Wall of China, or the swamps of Florida, and certainly the many, many comedy clubs and comedy theaters all over the world. Come hang out with me and meet the many interesting people that pop up in my life as I travel the world as a stand-up comedian.
You're listening to Tom Rhodes Radio.
Karate kick, baby.
Rock and roll.
Welcome to Tom Rhodes Radio Smart Camp.
Hi, welcome.
Hey, I apologize for putting the podcast out one day too late, but I had a benefit in Sacramento on Monday.
And you just came home yesterday.
Just got home last night, so that's why we were a little late putting out the podcast this week. So I had a really cool gig in Sacramento. I did a benefit for the Sacramento Police Department. And it was really cool. And it was half the audience was the Sacramento K-9 police officers. And they're the ones with the German Shepherds. And the fact that no dogs chewed on my ankle, I guess it was a good show.
Okay.
But also, these guys also were the helicopter units. It was the whole Sacramento police. And I adore Sacramento. I think it's one of the most livable places in America.
You think?
Yeah, it's an hour and a half, 2 hours from San Francisco, and then Lake Tahoe and the mountains are an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's multi-ethnic. It's Northern California, so people are really chilled. The rents aren't as expensive as other places in California,
like here,
or San Francisco. And I just think it's probably would be a great place to raise a family. Hint, hint.
Hint, hint.
But
okay, so the cops party.
So the police department absolutely loved me, and I talked to these guys after the show, and I mentioned how my dad was a helicopter pilot because they were helicopter pilots, and they've invited me to come up there and fly anytime I want to go with a ride-along.
Cool.
Remember my cousin Ron? I did the ride-along with him.
Yeah.
And I talked about my cousin Ron to the cops on stage, and those were some of the best moments of the show.
Because you know a lot about cops, or, you know, when you were riding with Ron, your cousin, he told you a lot of inside stories.
Well, yeah, and everybody hates the cops, you know. I mean, you know, there's been a lot of, you know, police brutality and police violence and just...
Yeah.
Well, after September 11th, everybody was in love with firemen, you know, and they still are. Firemen get all the extra money from city councils and the police department. A lot of them get their budgets cut, and nobody has any sympathy for the cops. And they do probably the shittiest job in society. I couldn't imagine how bad that was. It was funny. Nobody sat in the front row around the stage. And I walked out there and I said, it's an honor to perform for some of the bravest, toughest human beings on the planet who were too afraid to sit in the front row because some comedian might make jokes about them.
That's funny.
But yeah, I talked about, my cousin Ron told me how, I told them that my cousin Ron, who I had on the podcast, and he's told me all these great stories through the years about him being a cop and all these things that had happened to him. And when I had him on the podcast, he wouldn't come clean with him because he was still a cop.
Yeah.
And so I told the story. I hope he doesn't mind. I don't think he listens to the podcast. But
I don't think we actually published that one.
No, we did we put an abbreviated version of it.
We really did?
At the end of a podcast last year after during the Black Lives Matter, a very heightened, angry moment towards the police that I put him on there. I forget what episode it was, but anyway, so I told the story how the way I wanted to be a comedian. Ron is exactly my age. Maybe he's 1 year younger than me. The way I wanted to be a comedian, he wanted to be a police officer.
Yeah.
Because his dad was a cop. So he was a cop for 15 years, and he had seen so much violent death in South Florida that he had a mental breakdown. He had like post-traumatic stress disorder, and he had to take a break for 5 years. And then he came back about 5 or 6 years ago, and he's been a cop, which has been great. And he was just fired a few months ago because he called his commanding officer a pussy. So I told that story, and they loved it. And I said, so if you're thinking about calling your commanding officer a pussy, don't do it. Go to some Asian massage place along the highway and do something else. So, yeah, and another story that I regaled the police officers with, which it's an amazing story Ron told me years ago. He was called to an apartment complex, and two gay guys were having an argument. They were really alcoholic, really kind of dirtbag guys, and one of them was. And the other guy, he'd picked this guy up in a bar, brought him back to his apartment. They got into an argument, drunken argument. And this guy, the nicer human who lived there, wanted this guy to leave. And dirtbag scumbag guy doesn't want to leave. So they call the cops. And Ron says, I'm sorry, sir, that's the law. This is the man's home, and he would like you to leave. So I have to escort you off of the property. And he told me that the whole way in the parking lot out of the apartment complex building, this creepy alcoholic weirdo gay guy was backing away from him, and with both of his middle fingers, he keeps saying to him, "Fuck you, pig! Fuck you, pig! Fuck you, pig!" And he walked in, he's just walking him off the property. And then he walks him off the property, and the guy stepped into traffic and got hit by a car and was killed.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so his last moments in life were saying, "Fuck you, pig." Could you imagine? That's like when they replay the story of your life.
Oh my God, it's terrible.
Because I used to do this joke a long time ago. I know you're not a football person, and this guy's dead now, John Madden. He was a football coach, and then he was an announcer. But the great thing he did, they would show the replay of the football thing on the TV, and he would take some kind of special pen, and he'd mark X's or circle where something went wrong, and then he'd draw lines and arrows of the way they should have gone. And I wrote some joke like in the 90s that I think when you die, God is like John Madden, and he shows you a replay of your life, and he draws X's and circles where you made big mistakes and draws lines where you should have gone.
Oh, I love that. It's a great premise.
So the thought of this guy having to watch the replay of his life, and the last moments are, "Fuck you, pig. Fuck you, pig."
It's a good premise for,
Isn't that amazing?
Mr. Martin joke time.
Yeah, I don't know if Ron would appreciate that I tell these stories, so if you know my cousin Ron, don't tell him I gave away his secrets. And the other story that they really enjoyed, I was talking to these cops afterwards, and when I got to ride along with him, the start of the night, all the cops gather in the squad patrol room, and then the captain comes out and tells them what's happening, and we got a lot of, drug activity over here, and we need to be doing this over here. And some of the younger cops were like, "I want some action tonight. I want to get into a fight. I want to get into a chase." And when we went out to the car, my cousin Ron goes, "Did you see those young guys?" He goes, "That used to be me. Now I'm older. Now I'm the backup cop. I show up after the real shit's already been settled." And these guys could relate to it. Because you see the older cops, and they're the ones that show up last, to like in case somebody breaks away or whatever. So interesting. So I was in Atlanta, Georgia, before Sacramento last weekend, and I got to go to one of my favorite bookstores on the place. Should we talk about the bookstore, or should we talk about the Hanshin Tigers first?
Whatever you want. Let's do the book later when we have book time.
Okay, so before I went to Atlanta, I've been going to get my hair cut, all 50 blades of hair that I have on my balding head. There's a great little barber shop on La Brea, and it's these Mexican-American guys, and they play vinyl records, and I really like it. So you wanted me to try...
Yeah, because you came home and I thought, did you have a haircut? And you couldn't even see, I don't think it was very good. And the way you talked about this hair salon, it seemed very cool. They play records, they give you a shot of whiskey,
Yeah,
right?
but I don't drink. They have whiskey and scotch if you like it.
Yeah, so I thought, wow, that's pretty cool, trendy hair salon. But then your haircut didn't look very nice. So I told you, hey.
Yeah, but they were playing the Replacements' Tim.
And that's where they get you. So this is what I wanted to say is you came home and you just convinced yourself, no, I like it. This haircut is great. Just because you like the guy so much. And
Well,
you
it's
like
funny
the hair
psychologically
salon.
because like when I've been shopping for clothes, and I think studies have certainly been done on this. Like if it's a good song that I love, you're like, it's something feels right. Like, oh yeah, this shirt looks good on me. So maybe the Replacements' Tim album, which is a phenomenal, great album.
Yeah, because you feel good or you feel happy because of nostalgia or the song that makes you happy.
Yeah.
And then that happiness you also associate with the hair salon. That's how it works.
Yeah, so I went and tried your haircut guy.
Yeah, so wait. And then I said, you have to go back and you have to cut it again. And then he should not charge you because, you can do that. You should just go back and say, hey, can you cut it even more? And I said, tell him your wife said that.
Yeah,
and then you went back and then you still had to pay.
They charged me like
percentage,
they charged me like half price.
Which is LA haircuts are expensive, and that's when I said, you know what? Why don't you go to my guy?
Yeah, and I mean I don't have much hair on my head, so they shouldn't be charging me that much anyway. Mm-hmm. But your guy is like a block from the Improv on Melrose.
Yes.
And he's
Fuma Salon.
Fuma. Fuma. And this Japanese guy, I have his card somewhere. I forget. Keitaro. Really cool guy, and he's muscular. He looks like a Japanese samurai. Good-looking guy, and he's very muscular. And
he looks like an actor, like a fighting actor.
I liked him. You guys got a great vibe, and it was it's the same price as the guys that I liked, and he did a much better job. But the reason I bring it up...
And he cares, he really cares.
Well, the reason I bring it up and the reason I'm going to go back to this guy...
Yeah.
So he is from Yokohama, which is right next to Tokyo. And so he was asking me... He was very impressed that I had traveled all over Asia, which he had not. And I realized, because I was talking to him about, in China and Korea and how cool, like Shanghai is one of my favorite cities. And I asked him if he went, and he said no. And I go, oh, that's right. In Korea and China, they hate Japanese people because they did such heinous shit during World War II. So if you're Japanese, you probably don't want to be traveling around Korea and China. But I told him how I'd been to Japan several times. Mm-hmm. And the first time I went to Tokyo, and I told him the story about how my dad took me to see the Tokyo Giants because Sadahara O was the manager when I was a kid.
That's such a great story. You should tell it correctly.
Because we had to. Well, I told it on
another podcast
2 episodes ago.
Okay,
I told
cool.
that story.
That your dad picked you out of school with an excuse, and then you guys went to baseball games.
Yeah, you do it all the time. Get me out of school.
Okay.
So, I told him the story how I went to Osaka to see the Hanshin Tigers play. And then you could see on his face, he was,
Emotional.
he got emotional when I said Hanshin Tigers. And talking to him more, it turns out that the Hanshin Tigers, even though he's from the Tokyo area, the Hanshin Tigers were his favorite team because his dad was from Osaka. So he asked me, how did I find out about the Hanshin Tigers? And I told him, I read a story in the New York Times years ago, and it was about the Hanshin Tigers. And the story was so beautiful, it made me cry. The Hanshin Tigers have the oldest stadium in the Japanese league. It was built in 1936. Babe Ruth played on an exhibition tour of Japan before World War II and actually played at this stadium. And can I interject right now a little knowledge nugget? When the Japanese would attack American soldiers in the sky or on the ground with bayonets, they would yell, "To hell with Babe Ruth."
Wow.
That was their battle cry that they thought would frighten Americans. To hell.
Wow.
They should have said, "Fuck Babe Ruth." That would have been more powerful. But see, they just had bad information.
That's such a great knowledge.
To hell with Babe Ruth. That's what they would yell. And
in English.
yeah, which is ungrateful because here's the greatest player who came over there and played on an exhibition tour. So the story that I read about the Hanshin Tigers is the entire stadium is like a big human organ. They have cheerleaders in front of every 3 sections, and they do hand signals, and the whole audience knows to clap or to sing or to hum, and throughout the game the whole stadium sounds like a human organ.
Wow.
It's a big human organ.
Impressive.
So I had these gigs. The first time I went to Tokyo, it was the John Moorhead tour, booked out of London, that famous Hong Kong tour, and I did Hong Kong, Bangkok, then I almost drowned in Thailand, the story in the book, and then I went to Tokyo, and it was for half Japanese people, half English, British people. But then the next time I went to Japan, I did a show for the Marines in Okinawa. And I flew over 4 days early. So I bought a side ticket because I had seen Tokyo. I wanted to see Osaka. And I wanted to go to see the Hanshin Tigers. Couldn't get tickets online because everything was in Japanese. So I was in Osaka for 3 days because their schedule, they were playing the Tokyo Giants, which is the Yamasuri Giants. I forget how to pronounce it. So 3 nights, they're playing the Giants, their arch rival. This is like the Red Sox versus the Yankees, the Tigers versus the Giants. And it was sold out. 3 nights. 3 nights in a row, I went to the Hanshin Tigers Stadium, and I sat outside, and I listened. And it was great. It was cool. I could see all the activity around the stadium and stuff, and I couldn't get inside. And I thought I could scalp a ticket, but they don't scalp tickets in Japan the way that we do.
Good for them.
So, anyway. So that brings me to, that very long story brings me to this. For a while, I thought it would be cool I thought a very cool souvenir traveling would be to get alarm clocks. So I bought this. This is a Hanshin Tigers alarm clock that I bought outside the stadium at the little team gift shop. And the beginning is a little annoying, but then...
but you have to describe how the clock looks like. It's funny.
It's a little plastic yellow tiger, and he's holding up a bat that's got yellow stripes and black stripes on it. And on his stomach is the Hanshin Tigers logo. And it's a pretty happy looking tiger.
We are gonna put a photo out for the Patreons.
Oh yeah, the patrons get all the secret good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. The beginning's a little annoying. Wouldn't you want to wake up to this? they sing this during the 7th inning. The way we sing,
You've seen it too.
the way we sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." Okay, listen. I love that. When you turn it off, the crowd cheers. I love it.
That's great.
That's the crowd cheering. So you will not let me sleep with these alarm clocks. I have the Barcelona team song, which this one is starting to die. I played this last year on a podcast. So
The battery's out.
Oh, the battery's out. Yeah, that's the Barcelona Football Club. That's their song, and that one's Barca, Barca, Barca.
I love that. That's funny.
So, you won't let me sleep with these things? You find them?
No. I don't let you sleep with the Quran. What is it?
Well, that's
Let me
what,
see how it looks.
It's
no, that's awful.
So I bought this in Dubai, and this is it's a mosque alarm clock, and this is the one you won't let me sleep with. So you let me wake up to the Hanshin Tigers song?
Sure.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay, so check
It
this.
sounds so happy, you know.
And this is I bought this in Dubai.
Turn it off. Oh my god.
No wonder everybody's so pissed off in the Middle East. Could you imagine waking up to that? So this is my alarm clock collection, and this is the best. I think this is my favorite alarm clock that I have. And my brother Dave, he's my kind brother, not my asshole brother. My kind brother Dave gave me this for Christmas about 10 years ago.
Well, describe it.
It is Spider-Man. On top of the main body of the clock is skyscrapers, and then you got a little Spider-Man on top, and he's making his little finger thing like he's about to shoot some webs out of his hand. And this is the song from the cartoon when I was a kid, and I used to watch Spider-Man. Okay, this is my favorite alarm clock that I have. Who wouldn't want to look up? Okay, shit. I didn't mean to hit it again. I'm sorry. I meant to stop it. Look out! Here comes the Spider-Man.
Spider-Man is trouble in the city.
Okay, so that's my. Okay, shut up, Spider-Man. Here comes the Spider-Man. Okay. All right, that's over. Well,
That's funny.
anyway, that's my alarm clock collection.
I love it. I like the Hanshin Tiger. It sounds so happy.
It is happy.
If you compare it to the Chicago one, how does that one go again?
What you mean? No, the "Take Me Out to the Ball Game"
Yes.
song.
Take
me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back, 'cause it's root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. 'Cause it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
See, I was singing all the easy parts.
Yeah.
Root. But this one is super happy. They sing da 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 da.
Yeah.
You know, like Indiana Jones. They're coming and
Yeah.
it's so much more victory than take me out to the ball.
Yeah, well, the "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" thing, that people have been singing that since like the 1920s or the 1930s in America, and Cracker Jack isn't what people eat at. I mean, there's a lot.
What is Cracker Jack?
Cracker Jack is I got it for you. It's a toffee.
The peanuts?
It's peanuts and popcorn. I loved it when I was a kid, but now the quality is shit. I don't know where they're making.
It's a brand name.
Yeah,
Cracker Jack.
Cracker Jack.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like in baseball, and they used to say, that kid's a crackerjack. Like he was... It used to mean quality, but now it's total shit. So
Okay.
anyway,
So what did you do outside that Henshin Tiger games? Did you just... I guess it was nicer because you were just smoking cigarettes and drinking beer.
yeah, they had little vendors who that was the battery falling out of the alarm clock.
Oh yeah, I forget to mention to our people that we are not gonna edit this one because we just have to put it out. It's Wednesday afternoon.
I just got back last night. I've got 2 shows tonight. I'm doing
one with Joe Rogan.
8:00 show at the Improv, and that's great. There's Ron Funches, Tom Green,
Neil Brennan.
I think Eliza Schlesinger is on the show.
Yeah.
And then I got to run straight over to the Comedy Store, and I'm doing a benefit for the ACLU with Joe Rogan.
Cool.
So that'll be great.
So what did you do outside? You just drank beer and smoked cigarettes?
Yeah, they had like vendors who sold beers, like the big tall boys, and it was Japanese beer, and I love Japanese beer, when I was still drinking. So I sat outside and I
just observed people.
Yeah, I just looked at people.
I'll do that. That was that
and I had my little
fun.
camera with me, so I took photos of dads and little kids walking with their, with their
Son.
their team hats, and the kids got a big inflatable rubber bat, and just fun stuff like that. And it was cool. I mean, I took the subway there. I love Japan. It's really interesting.
So this is Tokyo, right?
No, this is Osaka.
Oh, Osaka.
Which Osaka is like the Japan. I'm sorry, the Chicago of Japan.
Okay.
Because Tokyo is like New York City. All you ever hear about is Tokyo and New York City, and you don't hear about the other cities. And
so what is Osaka? Is it more a military base city?
no.
Or...
No. Okinawa is where the military bases
that's
are.
what it is.
And many years ago, Okinawa was separate from Japan. Hundreds of years ago.
Really?
And that's where, is it what? Not kung fu. Which is the one that comes from? It was
from what?
There's a style of martial arts. Kung fu? What's the other one? Karate.
That's your karate.
Yeah.
That's a karate kick, baby.
Karate. Yeah.
You couldn't.
I'm sorry, I couldn't even think. Karate comes from Okinawa, and they wanted to keep that a secret among. It was illegal for anyone there to teach it to non-Okinawans.
Wow.
But Osaka is a massive city like Chicago. It's like the second largest city, and it's incredible on its own. And I would like to see more. I want to go to Sapporo one day. Sapporo was my...
Is it a beer?
That was my favorite beer when I drank, because it had a star on it. But
I love the name so much. That's why I sometimes order Sapporo.
Yeah, that's a city way in the north, and that's like a winter city. It's like gets cold up there.
Snow?
So they get snow.
Do they ski
and
there?
it's they're all about seafood. Yeah, they do have skiing in northern Japan.
And seafood, nice.
So it's supposed to be different and more industrial, and I would love to go to Sapporo.
And then how is Osaka? Is it tall buildings, very much of a city?
Skyscrapers. Yeah.
I'd love to go.
Let's do it. We're building up those Delta Sky Miles.
Hey, if anybody has a gig in Osaka, just email us.
There's supposed to be a little comedy scene in Tokyo. I would love to check it out. And speaking of building up Sky Miles on Delta Airlines, I'm so glad I don't fly United Airlines anymore. Did you see that guy get pulled out of his seat?
I was crying and laughing at the same time. I felt so terrible for him.
Yeah.
But it was also a little bit of comedy there. I'm thinking, wow,
well, did you hear
people get crazy.
Did you hear the noise that he made?
No.
It was like it was like between like I felt really bad for the guy.
Yeah. Because it could be any one of us.
Any one of us.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
fuck that. I bought a ticket. I'm sitting in my seat. I've already boarded the plane, and you want me to get off? And then they have the Chicago police. See what I'm talking about? The police have the shittiest job.
Yeah.
Why was it the cops who had to pull this guy off?
And not the United Airlines?
Why not go arrest the United Airlines executive that allows this policy for them to oversell the flights like that?
Yeah. Well, I read that they overbook flights because they always think there's going to be empty seats. And they don't want to lose that money, so they overbook. And that's also why tickets are a little bit cheaper for the customer.
Yeah.
So they can book things. But you had a good point. I had a good point saying they first offered, I think, $400 and then $800, and then they said they're gonna select people. I think they should have offered $2,000. I mean, eventually some people will say, "Hey, okay, I'll do it. I'll go." You know?
Yeah, you told me that story earlier that they offered $800 for anyone to give up their seat, and then you said they should have offered like $2,000. You remember that time you and I flew Delta?
Yeah.
And they offered $1,000 each.
We both said,
and
"Oh,
we were both like, yeah, fuck yeah."
Yeah.
And I flew to Holland on it. You still are going to use your ticket.
Yeah. And then one guy from Chile said, "Hey, this is my only chance to
go visit his family.
Go visit my family because I couldn't afford an extra $1,000 for a ticket."
Yeah, and we were thrilled to give up our seats.
Yeah.
And that was for $1,000. You said, why didn't they offer $2,000? And then my thought was, had United offered $2,000 in flight vouchers to anyone to give up their seat, it would have been a lot more inexpensive than the bad publicity that they just got over the past 4 days since it happened.
And the $300 million they lost on the
their stocks lost $1 billion.
So $2,000 or $300 million.
Yeah.
Bad move.
Well, and I've always said that United Airlines treats you like an animal.
They do. I never liked it.
No, they're the shittiest airline. And I have a few friends, comedian friends, who told me, yeah, that's my airline. I like United. And I was like, ew, really?
Yeah.
And I used to like, American used to be my airline. But then once they merged with US Air, now they're like United Airlines. They treat you like an animal.
Yeah.
In my opinion. So I'm thrilled to be on Delta.
I love Delta and KLM. Hey, so did you get that story that the guy is Asian, which I think it's totally random, but a lot of people in Asia are mad about it because they are saying, well, he got selected because he was Asian.
Why, easy to pull out of a chair? What are they saying by that? What? No, I read the story. Nobody would give up their chairs, so they looked at who had the most frequent flyer miles, and then after that, they looked at who had spent the most on the plane tickets.
Yes.
So, like, if you got a discounted ticket, then you were asked to, but they shouldn't. They shouldn't do that. Oh, and what I was going to say a minute ago, comedy clubs always oversell. Well, I mean, not oversell. They overbook the reservations by like 20 or 30 people.
That's a lot.
Yeah, but they know that they can't take more than so many reservations because they're factoring who's not going to show up. But these aren't paid tickets. If you've paid for all the tickets at a comedy show, then they don't oversell.
Yeah.
It's only the airlines that oversells the product.
And paid, so not reservations.
It's not I'm talking comedy
paid.
clubs do reservations.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
But they're that's a practice that needs to go away.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Or they could turn it into like maybe we could pitch a game show, like people getting pulled off of airlines and being tasered or beaten with clubs. Like somehow, I mean, if they're not going to get rid of it, they need to embrace it, make it entertaining.
Maybe the pilots should go first.
So, should we talk about a movie or a book?
The book. I want to see what you did. You bought some really expensive books. And I'm doing the finances and I'm seeing $70 on a bookstore. What did he do today? Then I have to wait until you call me. Like, okay, so what did you buy? So tell the story about the book.
Well, I would really love to be successful enough in my career that I don't have to run my purchases past my wife. But
I have the string.
In Atlanta, it's one of my favorite bookstores in the world, and it's called Acapella Books, Acapella Bookstore. And in 1996, I bought that Charles Bukowski, signed Charles Bukowski book, It Catches My Heart in Its Hands, which, is one of my favorite, one of my most prized possessions. I would never get rid of this book. I love it so much. Mm-hmm. So I go to this bookstore, and this book, it was $75, and the guy, I just had to have it. I was reading this book, flipping through the pages. It's called Invertebrate Spain, and the guy's written all about. It's Jose Ortega y Gasset. I've just started skimming through it, but it's all about what happened in Spain, and it's so beautifully written, like with the rise of fascism and. Your face.
It's from
1937.
Okay.
The look on your face as I'm explaining to you why I had to have this book is not.
Nope. You're not selling it.
Not selling it. Anyway.
But tell me more. Why you keep...
No. That's not the book.
Don't give up.
That's not the book. I haven't read it yet.
But how much was that book?
The guy gave it to me for $50.
$50? You have to tell me a little bit more about that book, because $50 is expensive.
Well, I'll read it, and then I'll do a full book report on it.
Okay.
So
Promise?
I promise you, of course. Yeah. No, and then... I don't, like when love has you, it's... You know what I'm saying? Like when you're somewhere in a store and you got there's a shirt.
Yeah.
It's more money than you want to spend, or a book, or a piece of music.
Well, you fell in love with the book?
Yeah, I just had to have it. See, you're Dutch, and Dutch people are frugal. Yeah, cheap.
No, efficient, not cheap. Efficient.
Yeah. So I also bought Henry Miller's Sexus, which, yes, I know I already own 2 copies of the book.
Damn.
But they have all of these great books in a glass case, like they're kind of So these were like collector's items books. I mean, I don't give a shit about the collector's item factor. I just care about the book.
That's nice.
Henry Miller wrote. There's a series of 3 books that go together: Sexus, Nexus, and Plexus. And this trilogy is called The Rosy Crucifixion. So, to be honest with you, I've never read Nexus and Plexus.
So funny. Nexus and Plexus.
I've read twice.
But of course, you read Sexus.
Twice I've read Sexus, and I just adore this book. And Henry Miller, he was from New York City, but he lived in Paris in the 1930s. He's being a writer. He's broke. He's screwing his brains out. And
that's what the book is about? Or
more or less, yeah.
Him?
It's about his life. And
okay.
The thing about Henry Miller is I think most of his books could be called What I Did with My Dick Today. But he'll write about his dick and his exploits and for 3 pages, and then he'll say like the most profound, beautiful truth about life.
That's
so
funny.
You just got to get through him,
playing with his dick.
Well, going in and out of the squishy stuff. So, can I read you a page?
Is it juicy stuff or?
I hope so. All right. This is from Henry Miller Sexus, page 173.
Sexus. Is Sexus more sex than Plexus and Nexus?
I've never read the other ones. I think the other ones are more about...
I think that's a good question.
That's funny. It's funny. I think the other ones are about Nex and Plex. I don't know. Okay, here we go. Henry Miller, page 173.
Okay, I'm ready.
The funny thing about all these utopian systems of government is that they're always promising to make man free. But first they try to make him run like an 8-day clock. They ask the individual to become a slave in order to establish freedom for mankind. It's rum logic. I don't say that the present system is any better. As a matter of fact, it would be difficult to imagine anything worse than what we've got now. But I know it's not going to be proved by giving up what little rights we have now. I don't think we want more rights. I think we want larger ideas. Jesus, when I see what lawyers and judges are trying to preserve, it makes me puke. The law hasn't any relation to human needs. It's a racket carried on by a syndicate of parasites. Just take up a law book and read a passage anywhere aloud. It sounds insane. If you're in your right senses, it is insane, by God, I know it. But Jesus, if I begin to question the law, I've got to question other things too. I'd go off my nut if I looked at things with a clear eye. You can't do it. Not if you want to keep in step. You've got to squint as you go along. You've got to pretend that it makes sense. You've got to let people suppose that you know what you're doing. But nobody knows what they're doing. We don't get up in the morning and think what we're about. No, sir. We get up in a fog and shuffle through a dark tunnel with a hangover. We play the game.
Wow.
Can I read a little more? We know it's a dirty, lousy fake, but we can't help it. But there's no choice. We're born into a certain setup. We're conditioned to it. We can tinker with it a little here and there, like you would with a leaky boat, but there's no making it over. There's no time for it. You've got to get to port, or you imagine you have to. We'll never get there, of course. The boat'll go down first, take my word for it. Now, if I were Henry here, if I felt as sure as he does that I was an artist, do you think I'd bother to prove it to the world? Not me. I wouldn't put a line down on paper. I'd just think my thoughts, dream my dreams, and let it go at that. I'd take any kind of job, anything that would keep me alive, and I'd say to the world, fuck you, Jack. You're not putting anything over on me. You ain't making me starve to prove that I'm an artist. No sirree. I know what I know, and nobody can tell me different. I'd just worm my way through life, doing just as little as possible and enjoying myself just as much as possible. If I had good, rich, juicy ideas, I'd enjoy them all to myself. I wouldn't try to ram them down people's throats. I'd act dumb most of the time. I'd be a yes man, a rubber stamp. I'd let them walk over me if they wanted to, just so long as I knew in my heart and soul that I really was somebody. I'd retire right in the midst of life. I wouldn't wait till I was old and decrepit, until they had first hammered the shit out of me and then salved me with a Nobel Prize.
Wow. I love that guy.
He is a bad mother. That's why, I don't know if I've ever explained to you why I love Henry Miller so much.
Yeah, but that your story about he talks about his dicks, it kind of turned me off.
There is. I mean, there's like in the same book. There's a rape scene that is so disturbing. Like it's somewhere in the last 100 pages. I remember it. It's like I remember when I first read this book, I was so blown away by it, and then like at the end, somewhere in the last 100 pages, there's this rape story. I'm like, oh my God.
You're never going to forget it.
And it was so disturbing. I thought it kind of, I wouldn't say it ruined the book for me, but it was like, God, didn't a friend or an editor say, hey, bro, could have cut.
Loved it, but.
Can we cut this? You know? But the guy's got such verve and passion and wit. And he wrote this shit, you know, in like the late 1930s.
Okay, that's what I want to know. Wow, that's cool. I liked in the beginning you said something like, or he wrote, we don't need laws, we need ideas.
Larger ideas.
Yeah. Good point. Wow, I'm looking forward to reading that.
Yeah, well, I have 3 copies now.
But you have more Henry Miller books.
I have almost everything everything he's ever written. And I've read almost everything. I just found a book called The Rooftops of Paris, which I've never read. He wrote a book about Greece.
Was he a traveler?
Yeah, it's The Colossus of Marousi.
Marousi, cool.
And
What's that?
It's all about him traveling in Greece and living in Greece for a little while. And that book made me want to go to Greece, other than the fact that the Island of Rhodes had my name on it. The Air-Conditioned Jungle is another great. That's when he moves back to the United States.
Oh, that's a great title.
When Hitler and the Nazis took over Paris and France, that's when he moved back to the United States.
Yeah.
And he had not lived in the United States for like, he moved over there like right as he moved to Paris like a month before the stock market crash
Yeah.
in 1929. And then he was there until like 1938, 1939. So his first impressions of the United States after moving back and being away for 10 years is the air-conditioned nightmare.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Thank you for that.
Great shit. And his most famous book, which was a big censorship trial, it was banned in America and other places, is The Tropic of Cancer, which is an okay book. It's a good read, but I think so much of his other stuff is more powerful, and he's one of my favorite writers of all time.
And why was his book banned?
Because it's got lots of sex in it.
Oh, it's because of the sex.
All of his books.
Okay.
Well, that's the thing. He believed in realism, and he very much believed that sex is very much a part of the human experience. So
That is
why
true.
not write about it?
Yeah, he's totally right. I guess that's his Parisian influence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, he left there's the movie Henry and June. It's about him. He was with Anise Nin. She was a French writer, and she was married, and he was screwing her.
The
And then
artists back then, they were screwing everybody.
screwing everybody in France. And then they had some other third girl. So he's it's like the 30s, and he's having threesomes in Paris, but he's got no money. He's broke.
Mm-hmm.
And he lined it up every night of the week. He had some patron person that would feed him every night of the week. He would go over to somebody's house, have dinner with their family for free. All these people who really loved him and his writings.
Yeah.
And they would support him by making him a big meal.
But that's great because I think especially Europe would appreciate artists, and they would love to do that. Thinking, hey, let's give this man a free meal so he has a lot of time to do his art. And look, the results are in this book cabinet.
Yeah,
right?
and it will last forever.
Yeah, it's amazing. I guess they saw how great an artist he was.
And the guy, is very philosophical. He does have very great ideas, and at any different stages in my life, like I first got turned on to Henry Miller in the early 90s when I was living in San Francisco. Oh, that's what I was going to say. He was from New York City, and he had like a really good job, and he got fired from, I think he was working for like Western Union, like in the 1920s.
Like an administrative job or
yeah, he was like
financial?
he had a really good job, and he fucked it up, and he was married, but he gave up his whole life because his dream was to go live in Paris and be a writer and write about life and everything.
Wow.
And
he did it.
And then he lived in Big Sur for like 20 years.
Oh shit.
Yeah, there's the Henry Miller Library, Henry Miller Center. It's right off of.
Wait, is it before? That's after Paris or before Paris? He lived
After.
in Big Sur.
After
nice.
Paris, he moved. He spent a few months in New York visiting friends and stuff, but then he moved
Big Sur is beautiful.
to Big Sur, and this was before all the hippies moved there in the 70s and bought up all the good property and everything. But yeah, and then he lived in the Pacific Palisades after that, and there's a famous photo of him playing ping pong with a naked woman.
Oh, that's Henry Miller?
That's Henry Miller, yeah.
Wow.
So, and that was like late 60s, and it's free love, and people like just Henry Miller, and he was a bald guy too. He was bald in his 20s. He had lost all his hair. So that should give a bald guy. If you're a bald guy and you're looking for a hero, Henry Miller's your man, because he was he feasted from the banquet, shall we say.
Yeah, but it's not only about the sex. It's funny that...
No.
exactly.
I respect him. I mean, nothing wrong with the guy. Enjoyed his time, but I respect him because he took a big chance in life to follow his dream, and he was a writer, and I'm sure there's a few of his books that are clunkers, but I could grab any book off the shelf and read a highlight from it. You mean to prove this to you?
You mean Henry
Well,
Miller's?
here, hold on. I'll grab a Henry Miller book. Another one.
So Tom just left his seat to grab a book, and he's coming back. It's a blue book.
This is, I bought this at City Lights in San Francisco. Oh yeah, this book is great. I bought this at City Lights. It's called Critical Lives, and it's all about Henry Miller's life and his influences, his favorite books. Balzac's inner struggle mirrored Miller's own lifelong obsession to reveal his essential innocence. The liberation of the angel within is the ultimate purpose of human life. Wow.
Wow.
The liberation of the angel within is the ultimate purpose of human life. Anyway.
Wow, he did it again.
Boom.
That was just random?
I just opened a book and read a highlight that I...
Okay, I want to do one.
Okay, sure.
This is the game we play sometimes. We just randomly...
This is a great game that we started playing in the past 5 or 6 months.
Because of Jay Moore, right?
Well, oh yeah, Jay Moore came over to my apartment and he was pulling books off the shelf. He was so impressed with my book collection. And so he was reading randomly. So Ashton and I have this new game where we'll grab a book randomly off the shelf and just read a paragraph.
Okay, random.
You got one?
Boom. Okay. Who is the man who triumphs? The one who believes. Let the intelligent ones doubt, criticize, categorize, and define. The man of heart believes, and the world belongs to him who believes most. Nothing is too silly, too trivial, too far-fetched, or too stupendous for man to believe. Learning crushes the spirit. Belief opens one up, delivers one. Wow!
That's right.
You're right, that was great.
That's great. Oh, I forgot to mention, Henry Miller thought that we should get rid of universities. He thought that universities poisoned people's heads and stunted their creativity and growth.
He's got a good point, because I went to university, and I have a master's degree, and I do have to say, as an artist, those were the days that taught me a lot to be rational and to think with my brain. Yeah. And sometimes when I'm busy with my art, that interferes with my creativity. So in some way, he's really right, because they do not stimulate creativity at all.
Well, and I think that's another thing I love about it, because I never went to university, but you know me, and I love to read, and I like searching out my own mentors and books of knowledge, and just he was very much about educating yourself in whatever field you want to be an expert in, or whatever gets you off. Like, he went through a period when he was in his 60s doing watercolors. So he studied all these Japanese watercolor artists.
Just keep learning.
Keep moving. So and that was a different skill, because it took his mind off of writing for a minute, where he could focus on other things.
Yeah, I can see that. And also, I studied cognitive psychology, and it was very much known that intelligence, it's a theory that creativity might be the highest form of intelligence.
I like that.
Yeah. So, and the things that you learn in school is a different kind of intelligence. But creativity is the highest form, because it makes you adapt to an environment, and you use a lot of knowledge and intelligence. A lot of aspects from intelligence to be creative. That's why they think it's the highest form for our species to survive, if you are creative. Nice, huh?
I love it. You're making me warm and fuzzy inside. Every summer in my summer I usually get I'll choose like a really big thick book to be my summer book, and really I
Be your pal for the summer.
Yeah, to be my pal for the summer. So I think I might attack the Rosy Crucifixion again.
Yes, great title. Rosary.
The Rosy Crucifixion.
Nice.
And I think I'll read Sexus again, and then for the first time read Nexus and Plexus.
Great. I am looking forward to read those too. What is the book called that I just read from?
I found this, and there's a series of these books, and I've only seen them at City Lights Bookstore in San Francisco. It's a signed copy by the author.
Cool.
And it's called Critical Lives. This is Henry Miller by David Stephen Coloni.
So it's called Critical Lives.
It's by Reaction Books, and it's REAKTION. Reaction with a K. Reaction Books. So they've also, in the series, they've got everything. There's these kind of books on Charles Baudelaire. There's one on William Burroughs, Coco Chanel, Noam Chomsky. Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Oh, I love him.
Vladimir Nabokov. So somebody who was like probably a university professor who's an expert wrote about these things.
Okay, and I just want to add that, I'm not saying that people should not go to university, because you do learn a lot. You do learn, to stay critical.
Right. Like, I'm not telling anybody not to go to an AA meeting. You're not saying that.
Yeah, because I do think it really adds a lot to your, to your human beingness. But I do think they should have more classes that stimulate your creativity.
Yeah. No,
or you could just do a class on the side, creative painting class, or just read a lot of books.
Yeah, I mean, university's great. I wish I would have gone. I didn't have time. I didn't want to.
It was so much fun.
They didn't have stand-up comedy there.
That's a great thing. They should have.
No, but I thought it would be better, instead of pay thousands of dollars to go to a university and get paid thousands of dollars to perform there.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the difference is in the Netherlands, you don't have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to go to university. If you're smart enough, if you do the high level of high school, you get 3 levels of high school. You get one where people can work with their hands, and then the second, people can be manager, and at the last level, the highest level, people are very rational. How you call it? They're better. They're gonna go to university and learn a theoretical profession. So I went to the highest level of the high school, and I did not have to pay thousands of dollars. The government supports you. If your parents don't earn a lot of money, you get a little bit of money to support you for support. And I paid. This is 10 years ago. How old am I? 38. So maybe 15 years ago.
Funny, you got to ask me how old you are.
Yeah, it happens after 35 or something. So I paid 1,500 euros a year for college tuition.
Wow, to go to Leiden University, which is the Harvard of the Netherlands. The best university in the...
Beatrix and the king also studied there. Pretty cool,
wow.
Huh? And I had to pay for my own books. But that's maybe 300 euros a semester. Yeah, it was super fun. I loved it. I always had discussions with my professors. And I chose a study that only had 30 people in the class. Because it was kind of like a technical, cognitive psychology is a little bit more neurology.
Right.
A lot of people chose social psychology. That was super popular. And the one for children, child psychology. So it was cool being with 30 kids in the classroom,
Yeah.
I always had the cool discussions with the professors.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you had that experience. I had no desire. And then all the people who go there and they're in fraternities and...
Yeah, I didn't do that.
Secret handshakes and I can only hang out with these people.
Yeah, I didn't like that too much,
because they made me swallow a goldfish and...
Well,
chug
I
beer
really
through a
had
funnel out of my butt.
I had a good experience because I was just the only one who went to the university in my whole family.
Right.
And I always thought, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna do this, right? And I just thought it was super interesting. So that's why I had really good grades. I was one of the best because I just loved the knowledge. And there was this really cool professor. He really looked like the funniest professor. He had white hair. His hair was always messy. He was skinny, and he always had this. What is this called?
Bow tie.
A bow tie. He always had a bow tie. He was always in a suit, and he was the smartest of the whole university, right? He was also he was a little bit of a celebrity because people always invited him to talk show to give his expertise, right?
Right.
And I had two classes. I took two classes, and one was called critical thinking, and we had to solve all these cases, using our own logical reasoning and critical mind. And I remember the very first lesson. He came to me. He was just walking through the class. We were doing an assignment, and he said to me. He stopped at my table and he said, "You're smarter than you think."
Huh.
And then he just walked away. And I had the highest grade. Because that's why he said it. I had the highest grade of the assignment the class before. And that sentence meant the world to me.
Right.
Because, he was a celebrity professor. And then he said it to me. And I had the highest grade. Then I thought, yeah, I'm going to fucking rule this world. Right? And then it stimulated me to be the best, and it did.
I love that story.
Yeah.
I love that you went to university because you are so educated and smart in areas that I know nothing about. And you've heard me say it a million times when you solve some massive problem for us.
What, you mean attach a file to the email?
Yeah, no. Come on, don't kill
joking.
the beautiful compliment I'm about to give you. But I always say, whew, thank God you went to university for both of us.
Yeah.
So I think I've gotten more out of your university education than your education has benefited both of our lives.
Yeah.
And I know how to do an attachment now. You shouldn't tell them shit like that. That was when we first started dating. I had problems with attachments. Come on. Anyway. Okay.
Let's do movie time.
Movie time. Yay.
Yay.
What was that horrendous piece of shit that we watched last night?
It wasn't that horrendous. It was just not a good story.
It was a Spain movie.
Situated in Morocco.
So if you look on Netflix on the foreign movies, but there was when we did our interracial
episode
film festival, the interracial movies we watched, we didn't mention that brilliant Spanish movie. What's it called? Snow on the Palms?
Oh.
What's that called?
Yeah, snow in the palm trees. Something like that.
That's a great movie.
Ah, that's such.
It was really
movie.
long and it's romantic
and beautiful people.
Beautiful, and I had no idea that the Spanish were in Spain ever, and that
the Spanish were in Spain ever.
Yeah, I always thought it was like the French had colonized a lot of Africa and the English and the Belgians
you didn't
and the
realize
Germans.
Spanish were in Africa. You said Spanish were in Spain.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Spanish were in Africa.
Yeah.
And that's got some story. Anyway, it was an interracial story in that movie. That was really good. This story...
super hot, right? Super sexy as well.
And
sensual.
The Nubian dark-skinned woman...
So beautiful.
Who's the star is just absolutely breathtaking.
And in the real life, they're a couple, which make it nicer to watch the movie.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the guy is super handsome as well, right?
So that movie, they became a couple? They met on that movie, or?
Oh, I don't know the details.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a good one.
You should watch it. It's on Netflix.
And it's called Snow in the Palm Trees.
Snow. Palm trees in the snow. That's it.
Yeah. So anyway, we won't even mention the name of the shitty Spanish movie we watched last night. But a few nights ago in Sacramento after my show. Oh, I forgot to mention one thing about the police benefit. The canine cops.
Yeah.
They've got the German Shepherds. I was talking to them after the show. Really great guy, and he had organized the gig, and so he's telling me about the dogs where he's getting older, so he doesn't have to chase after the criminals. The dogs do it, and that the dogs just start like flaying open somebody's thigh and chewing their leg. And I said, "Wow, you're probably the only cop anybody's happy to see." Officer, would you mind getting this dog off of my body?
All right.
So I watched this documentary on Stanley Kubrick the other night.
Ah, okay.
And it was great.
Was it on his life? Or?
It was about his whole life. He started out as he was from New York City.
Where did you see that? That sounds interesting. Netflix?
It's probably on Netflix, but I bought this Stanley Kubrick box set. It's got every movie he ever made, and it's got this documentary. And I didn't know he was from New York. Like he was born in the Bronx or Brooklyn, and he loved chess. He was a photographer. He started being a photographer when he was as a teenager. At 16, he started, I think it was like Look magazine or some magazine, and he went everywhere with his camera. It reminded me of you. And then he's taking photos everywhere. And then there was one photograph after FDR died, where he took a photo of the man at the newspaper stand, and he was all sad and looking really heartbroken, and then you could see
the framing of
the headlines of the newspaper, FDR is dead, and that photo spoke, volumes about this moment that he captured. So then he made like 2 little movies on his own with his own money, and then things kind of took off for him, and he becomes this legendary filmmaker. So I love Stanley Kubrick, love his movies. Great seeing this. I thought his last one was kind of a dud, Eyes Wide Shut.
Didn't like that?
No, with Tom Cruise.
I forgot how the movie, how it went, but how the story was.
Yeah.
But I remember that when I saw it, that I was pretty impressed.
Well, I mean, he chose great things. Like there was one story he wanted to do about it was some different thing.
What are you doing?
About the Holocaust.
You hear that sound on the podcast.
He had done some story. He had started to make some movie, and then Spielberg starts making Schindler's List. So he wanted to do Full Metal Jacket for years. It took him years to make his movies. Anyway, the stories behind his films were great. But 2001: Space Odyssey, which some people say is the greatest movie of all time, was destroyed by the critics. And it bothered him. I mean, he worked with some scientists and science fiction writers, a lot of elements of that movie. And I admit, I didn't get that movie. I had seen it several times, and people had always said it was such a brilliant movie. And then last summer, you and I went and saw it at the Hollywood Cemetery. The Hollywood Cemetery here in Hollywood, in the summer they do movies in the graveyard.
Open.
There's one section where there's no graves, so you're not sitting on any graves, and so it's outdoor. You can bring alcohol and food and make a picnic out of it.
I love that.
And it was the first time I had ever seen that movie on a big screen. I realized when I saw it, the 2 times I saw it before was on a little TV. I watched it like on a VHS tapes, and I never got the movie. I always thought, what's that fucking big deal? Okay, cavemen and then the outer space thing. Seeing it, and then I probably got drunk or high when I watched it before, and then now I'm sober, and I watched that movie.
You watch a movie because the screen is on a wall, and behind that screen you see the sky with the stars.
The stars, yeah.
Can you imagine seeing that on a screen like that?
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
So for the first time I got it. I got that film. I was like, oh wow, this is great. And then when he's in space, the one guy, he calls his daughter, and like they're talking on a TV.
Yeah.
Which he predicted Skype.
Yeah.
There was like so many technological things in there
That he
that
predicted,
he
yeah.
predicted that were the movie was way ahead of its time.
And the sound was great. The music. Doom, doom, right?
Yeah, and there was another thing they talked about in his movie that he used classical music.
Oh.
And it was the first time he used like regular songs, because usually they would hire an orchestra or someone to score the movies. So I forget what it was. It's Strauss's Waltz that he put into Space
Wow,
Odyssey.
and he was the first one to use existing music.
Yeah, and then there was some Hungarian composer that he used for his next movie. I think Clockwork Orange was next. Some Hungarian guy was under Stalin, and they weren't allowed to have music or something, and he made these like really bleak, weird music. It was almost like a scream for help.
Yeah.
His music.
Yeah.
I forget. It's in that documentary.
And the close up. Oh, sorry. What do you want to say?
So he used that for this guy's weird recordings for Clockwork Orange.
Oh, I see. And I love the close up of the leaning guy in Space Odyssey.
What was that?
The close ups of his face.
Yeah.
Just his reaction and his, whatever emotional thing he was going through, you could just see super close up. I love that too.
Yeah, and then when the computer Hal decides that he's gonna kill him.
But he's so funny because we had to laugh a few times because Hal is, hell. Hell.
Hal.
Hell.
Hal.
Hell. Yeah. It was
funny.
And then Hal was pretty funny as well, What is the leading guy's name?
I forget.
Well, let's say Paul. And Hal would go, well, I don't know, Paul. You tell me.
Oh, yeah. He was kind of
Super funny.
sassy.
Yeah.
The computer Hal. So that reminds me, the weather's getting nice, and I think they're going to start the
I will hope
Hollywood
so.
Cemetery outdoor movies soon.
Yeah, so sometimes it's so full that in the back you do have some grave, the big ones, what's that called?
Mausoleums.
You have mausoleums, and between there people sit down with their picnic.
Nice.
And there's also a funny anecdote about that graveyard is when you walk towards the big field where you can put your blanket on,
Mm-hmm.
you pass this little tiny square of what's it called? The square of square.
Square, yeah.
Square. Where you can smoke, and it's super funny because that's between the grave,
Oh, yeah.
and then I should take a photo next time because you see people standing smoking, and there are graves. They're standing between the graves.
Yeah.
That's the best promotion for quit smoking.
Funny.
Yeah. But yeah, it's great. If you're here in summer, you should definitely go. It's not even that expensive.
Yeah, I can't wait to go again.
I want to see every movie.
It's about to kick off. So, well, I think that's it. I got to get ready for my shows. We got to eat some food. Speaking of food.
Yeah.
This has been a good, fun little chat, my darling.
Yes.
And thank you to our golden Buddhas.
Thank you.
We've had people at different levels donating money, and the golden Buddha people
who make this happen, because every week we think, in the past we think like, oh, should we just skip it? Okay. And now no, let's do it. Oh, we gotta do it. We schedule it in because of our patrons.
Because we can't let our golden Buddhas down.
Yes.
And our other patrons.
Yes.
So thank you. If you want to give and support the podcast, patreon.com, patreon.com. We've got
/ Tom Rhodes Radio Smart Camp.
Hooray.
Or go to Amazon and use our Amazon banner. If you want to purchase something on Amazon, that's a win-win situation for us and for you.
Yeah, and also I've got my 2 CD, or we might not even make CDs of it, but I have my next live recording that's going to come out.
Yeah.
All Hail Minnesota, and then Libtard. It's 2 shows. There's a lot of different material. There's like 20 to 30 minutes different material because it was going to be my live recording. I did it in Minneapolis last June, and I was all ready to go and release this. And then I recorded the Libtard show in San Francisco. So all that's just been edited, and very soon I'm going to release that on iTunes and stuff.
And the first people on Patreon who sign up, they'll get it for free. I
think we're going to give it to our Patreon people for free before we put it out.
Yeah.
So there's lots of fun, great ways to say thank you that we're thinking of for our Patreon people, because you keep our wheels turning.
And if you're listening and you think, oh, wow, gosh, I'm eating free grapes in a superstore. Well, just think you'll be helping us out.
Do something for the farmers who are growing the grapes.
Do something for the artists, like Henry Miller,
Yeah.
He went and good people gave him a meal so he could,
great. Yeah, be one of the people who feeds Henry Miller. Think about that,
Yeah. So he can have more time to do his art and also grow in his art.
That's right. Cool. Hey, and we'll put the naked photo of Henry Miller.
Oh, yeah.
Henry Miller.
And the clock
you can
photos.
find it online. But I think this was a tough episode with those Henry Miller words. This was like really strong shit. So is it okay if I end the episode with one of my favorite AC/DC songs?
Okay.
All right. Bon Scott. We put flowers on his grave when we were in Perth. Here we go. Thanks for listening, everybody. And shalom, amigos y amigas.